Have you ever walked into a room so cluttered that you felt your chest tighten? Where every surface was covered with stuff and you couldn't even remember why you bought half of it? What if we told you there's a way of living that could completely flip that script and make you actually excited to wake up in your own space again? So here's the thing. We used to think that happiness came from having more. More clothes in the closet, more gadgets on the desk, more decorations on every shelf. The whole idea was that if we just bought that one more thing, we'd finally feel complete. But somewhere along the way, all that stuff started feeling less like treasure and more like weight. That's when we stumbled into the world of Japanese minimalism, and honestly, it changed everything about how we see our homes and our lives. What actually is Japanese minimalism? When we first heard about Japanese minimalism, we thought it was just about having empty rooms and sitting on the floor. Turns out, it's so much deeper than that. Japanese minimalism isn't about punishment or deprivation. It's not about forcing yourself to live with 3 items and sleeping on a wooden plank. Instead, it's this beautiful philosophy that says we should surround ourselves only with things that truly matter. The Japanese have this concept called which roughly translates to the beauty of empty space. It's about appreciating the gaps between things, not just the things themselves. Think about it like music. The silence between notes is what makes the melody beautiful, right? Same thing applies to our living spaces. When we give objects room to breathe, we can actually appreciate them. That coffee mug you love, it becomes special again when it's not buried behind 15 other mugs you never use. The mental shift that started everything. We remember the exact moment things clicked for us. We were standing in our bedroom trying to find a shirt we actually wanted to wear, and we realized we were digging through piles of clothes we'd forgotten we even owned. Some still had tags on them. We felt this weird mix of guilt and frustration because we'd spent money on all this stuff, yet we somehow felt like we had nothing to wear. Sound familiar? That's when we started asking ourselves a different question. Instead of, might I need this someday? We began asking, does this add value to my life right now? And that simple shift in perspective opened up a whole new way of seeing our space. Japanese minimalism taught us that keeping something out of guilt or obligation isn't kindness to ourselves. It's actually a burden we're choosing to carry every single day. Starting with the physical clutter. We didn't dive in and throw everything away overnight. That's not how this works, and honestly, that approach usually backfires. Instead, we started small, and we'd recommend the same thing. We picked one drawer, just one. And we took everything out and really looked at each item. Do we use this? Do we love this? Does it make our life better in some concrete way? The wild part was discovering how many things we kept for reasons that didn't even make sense anymore. Old cables for devices we no longer owned, instruction manuals for furniture we'd thrown out years ago, clothes that fit a version of ourselves we'd grown past. Japanese minimalism gave us permission to let these things go without the guilt trip. The philosophy recognizes that we change, our needs evolve, and holding on to the past doesn't serve our present. What surprised us most was how good it felt. Every item we released created this tiny sense of lightness, and as our spaces started to clear, something unexpected happened. We could actually see our homes again. The things we decided to keep suddenly stood out and felt more meaningful. That favorite painting we'd hung years ago became visible again when we removed the clutter around it. The breathing room we didn't know we needed. Here's something nobody tells you about clutter. It's not just taking up physical space. It's constantly pulling at your attention, even when you don't realize it. Every object in your line of sight is something your brain has to process and categorize. Studies from Princeton University found that physical clutter actually competes for your attention and reduces your brain's ability to focus. When we started applying Japanese minimalist principles, we weren't just cleaning up, we were giving our minds permission to rest. The difference was honestly remarkable. Mornings became easier because we weren't decision fatigued before we even left the house. Evenings felt more peaceful because coming home didn't mean confronting chaos. We started noticing details we'd missed before, like how the afternoon light hit the wall, or how nice it felt to actually use our dining table instead of it being a permanent dumping ground for mail and random stuff. Quality over quantity became real. Japanese minimalism introduced us to this idea of choosing quality over quantity in a way that actually made sense. Before, we'd buy cheap stuff because it was affordable, even though we knew it wouldn't last. We'd replace it when it broke, buy more cheap stuff, and the cycle continued. But when we shifted our mindset, something interesting happened. We started saving up for things that were genuinely well-made. Instead of 5 mediocre pans, we invested in one really good one. Instead of a closet bursting with fast fashion, we gradually built a smaller collection of clothes we genuinely loved wearing. And here's the surprising part. We started spending less money overall. When you're not constantly replacing cheap items or buying things out of impulse, your budget actually relaxes. The Japanese concept of motenai, which expresses regret over waste, played a huge role here. It made us think carefully before buying anything new. We'd consider the full life cycle of an item. Where did it come from? How long would it last? What would happen to it when we were done with it? These questions naturally filtered out so much unnecessary consumption. The emotional baggage we were holding on to. One of the toughest parts of embracing Japanese minimalism was dealing with sentimental items. We're talking about gifts from people we cared about, souvenirs from meaningful trips, things connected to memories we wanted to preserve. The traditional advice is to photograph items and then let them go, but that felt too cold for us at first. What helped was understanding that memories don't actually live in objects. They live in us. Keeping a ticket doesn't make the experience more real. The Japanese practice of gratitude helped us here too. We'd hold an item, thank it for the joy it brought or the memory it represented, and then release it. This wasn't about being heartless. It was about acknowledging that we could honor our past without being imprisoned by it. We kept some things, of course, but we became very selective. The few sentimental items we retained became treasured because they weren't competing with hundreds of other objects for our attention and emotional energy. How our daily life actually changed. The ripple effects went way beyond having tidier rooms. We found ourselves with more time because we weren't constantly organizing, reorganizing, and managing our stuff. Cleaning became simpler. Making decisions became easier. We had mental bandwidth we didn't even know we'd been missing. Our relationships improved too, which sounds weird, but it's true. When we weren't stressed about the state of our homes, we were more present with the people around us. We could invite friends over without spending 3 hours panic cleaning first. We could focus on conversations instead of mentally cataloging all the tasks waiting for us in cluttered corners. Japanese minimalism also changed how we spent our free time. Instead of shopping as entertainment or scrolling through products online, we rediscovered activities we'd neglected. Reading, cooking, actually enjoying our hobbies instead of just collecting supplies for hobbies we might try someday. This space we created physically translated into space in our schedules and our headspace. Here's what we wish someone had told us at the beginning. Japanese minimalism isn't a destination. It's not like you declutter once and you're done forever. It's an ongoing practice of being intentional about what we allow into our spaces and our lives. New stuff will come in, that's inevitable. But now we have this framework for evaluating whether it should stay. We still slip up sometimes. We buy things we don't need or hold on to stuff longer than we should. But the beautiful thing is that the principles of Japanese minimalism give us a path back whenever we notice ourselves drifting. It's not about perfection. It's about awareness and making choices that align with the life we actually want to live. If your space feels overwhelming right now, or if you're tired of feeling buried under your own possessions, Japanese minimalism might be exactly what you need. It's not about living like a monk or giving up everything you love. It's about creating room for what actually matters, both in your home and in your heart. The life you want isn't hiding under all that clutter. It's waiting in the space you'll create when you finally let go.